what's your prediction for this series for the finals? What you thinking?
All right, I'm gonna predict with my heart. Celtics in 6.
Woo!
Winning the Garden.
Jordan, Tyson, Game 6, baby.
Look, Celtics in 7. It's such a cop-out. I don't really believe this pick, so I'm going to say Celtics in 7. No, I believe it. Celtics in 6. All right, I had Celtics in 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals. They took 7, whatever. I was happy to be wrong as long as they won. I think I had Celtics in 6 as well against the Bucks. So maybe I'll say Celtics in 6 and they end up winning it in 7. But either way, let's bring Banner 18 home.
Yeah. Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Let's get it. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam. Sean on the mic, very flat too. Keep you updated, that's what we do. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam.
Yo, what to do, everybody? It's your boy, John Altidor with Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Back at you with another one, my boys, Vlad, Barry, and welcome back to the show, the Emmy Award-winning associate producer at NBC Sports Boston, Max Lederman. Welcome back, man. How you doing? It's been a while.
Oh, I'm doing great. Doing great, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on, man. I see the poster back there, with the Time Lord, and I see Marcus Smart out there. These guys are doing big things, man. So today is, Memorial Day. So happy Memorial Day to everybody. And, it's even happier in Boston because the Boston Celtics have made it to the final as of today. How you feeling about that?
Man, I'm feeling great. I just was like, it really, it's hard to explain. And you guys know, but it was just like, just get over the hump, man. I started being the main Celtics associate producer the first year of Brad Stevens' career when they first hired him. So the tank was in. It was the summer they traded KG and Pierce, the infamous Nets trade, and that's really where this whole thing began. That moment when they laid the foundation. They were bad that year. That was their 1 year that they were tanking, and they got Marcus because of it. And then the Isaiah run was just so out of nowhere, and it felt just like great to be there. It was like, wow, I didn't expect this. This is awesome. But nobody really thought they could beat LeBron, even though, they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then they blew that team up, got Kyrie, Gordon, and then they got injured. And then these, two young guys helped lead them to another conference finals, Game 7 at home at the Garden versus LeBron. But even then, we got our hopes up, but it was like, they're not going to beat the Warriors. And then in the bubble with the Heat, it was like, man, here we are again. This is getting pretty regular. And that was the first one where I feel like we were like, all right, let's go to the finals. But watching that series, it was like, all right, the Celtics weren't ready. And this year it was just like, this is their time. Everything's lined up perfectly. Ime is just a perfect coach. And then they did it. I mean, it got real hairy at the end there, but they did it. And it's just great. It's just great to have seen this team grow from the beginning. All those moves that Danny made. And then Brad just coming in and making just such good choices throughout this season at the deadline, getting Derek White, hiring Ime. I mean, what a move. And just seeing the Jays and Marcus just hugging it out and really embracing that moment last night. Oh, so good.
Absolutely, man. I think we haven't made it to the finals since 2010, so it's 12 years later. And, we got rid of Pierce and KG, and, I'm pretty sure a lot of Boston fans thought we were going to suck for a while, but even throughout that time, man, we've been contending, hitting the playoffs. We haven't made it all the way, but at least we've been competitive throughout the time. Have you seen another organization do something like that?
No, I mean, really, it's like like the Spurs and like the Warriors, and honestly the Cavs with LeBron that had that nice run. But really, it's the Warriors and the Spurs are the ones recently that would, you know, that I would think about. Maybe even because they made shrewd moves for, early on for Middleton, and obviously they drafted Giannis. But you know, a lot of the teams that just go and get free agents or trades for, you know, super teams. There's just not a lot of joy in that. And 08 was great, but that was another one of those super teams where, you know, they had a nice 6-year run there and they did get back to another finals in 2010. But to see them like grow, you know, I remember building like graphics for our draft shows during this whole time and just building little graphics with, you know, little flat top Jaylen Brown from Cal. One for, you know, Marcus Smart. I was looking at NBADraft.net and they were comparing him to Dwayne Wade. I'm like, oh my God, this would be amazing. And obviously that's not who he is. But, you know, and then Tatum, I was like, I hope they don't draft Tatum. They should draft Fultz. And then Philly, it was like, who are they going to take? I was like, I bet you it's Jonathan Isaac. And they made, you know, Danny made some great trades with good human beings too, like good dudes that care a lot about getting better and playing basketball. And just everything was just wonderful and great. And I think that's why it feels so good, is just to see it grow. And, you know, there are a lot of people that didn't understand how long it takes to build teams. And I've been on this kick reading, you know, books about basketball dynasties. I read the Lakers book. I read the Jordan Rules. And man, this really feels like the start, like the beginning chapters of one of those books, because, you know, it seems like it's been a long time to get here, but they're so young. This is just the beginning. It really is. It's, you know, who knows what happens. But I just feel like everything from here on out, for me at least, is icing. You know, I hope they win the championship, but even if they don't, I feel so good that they finally got there. They checked that off the list, and let's see where this thing can go for the next 5 years.
Absolutely, man. You know, I think it's safe to say the Celtics this year, you know, the 2022 Celtics, they chose the hardest route to get to the finals, you know, starting out with the Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks. And then you got the Heat, you know, after they lost game 6, you know, I'm pretty sure a lot of us said, you know, Barry,
God, really? Put me under the bus.
I'm sure a lot of us said, you know, they just lost that series right then and there, man. You know, like how did these guys pull out this series, you know, from Miami? I think, well, we've won 3 games in Miami. Like, I think that's pretty huge in itself.
Well, look, Ime all year, like, so I doubted this team. Like, coming into the season, I didn't have high expectations. I thought, you know, a good season would be if they weren't in the play-in. That's just how I just going in. I was like, all right, let's recalibrate our expectations to a bit of a leap or a gap year. You know, let's see what we got. Let's make, you know, what we can do at point guard. See if Marcus can fill that role. You got Schroeder in here. See how he does. Maybe you can flip him for an asset, and just let Ime kind of grow in his first year. And then it was worse than I thought. It was so bad early and just dark days. But, like, the whole league was all screwy because of COVID and everything.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then it was that Bulls loss where they blew the 19-point lead. And then Marcus, you know, calling the Jays out. And then them having the team meeting that wasn't a team meeting. And then spanking the Magic. And then beating the Heat. And I just was so impressed with that Heat win. I was like, maybe there's a little something here, but then losses piled up, and they just, every time you were ready to get excited, they disappointed. And so I remember looking at the schedule and you know, getting towards mid-January and being like, look at these tomato cans they got coming up here leading into the trade deadline. They're going to like win 10 straight games and trick themselves into being buyers at the deadline. And it's going to be such a disaster. And they just made all those games. And they did trick themselves into being buyers, but they were right. I mean, they used those games against bad teams. Like, they didn't just beat them. They just destroyed them.
Yeah.
And
Annihilated. Oh yeah.
it was amazing to watch. And when everyone was like, "Oh, well, look who they're playing," I'm like, "Yeah, but everyone else plays them too, and everyone else isn't
Facts.
beating them like that." And they use those games to like, hey, this is what it's like to play good basketball. And I didn't believe even, I was like, wow, this is great, this is fun, this is awesome. It really wasn't until like the last month of the regular season that I was like, I'm done doubting this team. Ime and the players have said the exact same thing to a man all season for the most part. It's like, we're not as good as we can be, and even when they were just destroying teams, they kept saying, we still have places to go. We've not accomplished anything. We can play better, and every time they face adversity, they bounce back. And I started watching like the 2014 Spurs stuff, and just like, Ime was on that staff, and just that whole journey that they went on because they got the Ray Allen shot against them the year before, and just how they came together after that and bounced back. And like, Ime's got that experience, and he's got them believing. And at the deadline, they didn't just trade away Dennis Schroeder and Josh Richardson and Romeo. They traded away doubt. They gave it all away. They're like, doubt is gone. It's out of our locker room. We no longer have it. And it's really crazy. So I was confident going into yesterday's game. I really was. I was nervous, like really nervous, because I just really wanted them to win. But Jimmy Butler's terrifying. But I was like, man, they bounce back after every loss, and it's not close. It really isn't. They just smoke teams, and it's a credit to the players. It's a credit to the chemistry, and it's really a credit to Ime. I just think he just has such a way with them, and it's a magical little ride they're on here, and I love it.
I'm so glad that you sort of started from, when they traded KG and they traded Ray Allen, and you moved into, drafting Marcus Smart, drafting Jaylen Brown, just, giving us that whole picture, leading us to this, and also giving credit to Danny Ainge, then giving credit to the coach, Ime Udoka, and giving it to Brad Stevens. And because, I think all those guys have something to do with where we are now. And I think a couple of years ago or last year, I was a big proponent of we need to get rid of Danny. But, we still have to acknowledge the work that he did. He drafted most of those guys. And even though it wasn't gelling quite yet, but just like you said, right, it takes a while to put that kind of team together. And finally, that team is together now, and they're playing well together. And hopefully this is the start of something great. I mean, that's what I'm hoping. But what did they figure out this year as far as Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum playing together? Like, what was the key to figuring out them playing together and becoming the team that they are now?
I think it was just like I was saying, like, just they started believing. They really started believing, and just growth, man, like maturity. Like Tatum, when he started to turn around, because remember, he had such an awful start to the season. He was dragging because he was to Team USA, and it was already a shortened off season because of the whole pandemic thing. And then he started to turn it around like he normally does in the second half. And I remember tweeting out, like, man, people don't even understand, like, he's so good already, but he's, his brain isn't even fully developed yet. Like, he's 24. And at the time he was 23. It's like, what are we, like, witnessing here? Like, these guys are just maturing. They're growing. It's normal to take years. Like, it was abnormal the amount of success that they had team-wise early. Like, it really was. Like, it's such an outlier. You don't see number 3 picks in consecutive years going to teams that were already conference finalists, it's just such a random thing. Like, it's like Darko going to the Pistons and that weird, well, they should have drafted Carmelo. But it's just, it's one of those weird things. And, I'm a Sixers fan. So seeing, there's 2 different ways to do it. You bottom out and hope for the stars. But the problem with that is that now you have a team of guys that are used to losing. And what Danny did was he's like, I'll just let the other team tank for us, and we'll just use all their picks. I mean, obviously, he couldn't have foreseen how bad the Nets were going to be, but I think we all saw at the time, like, wow, that's a really old team.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of picks to give up for some old guys. But credit to him, too, for making the right choices. And he really got crushed for a lot of those draft picks at the end. Rightfully so, it felt like. But you just need to get one guy each year, and he really did. I mean, Romeo, a bad player. Well, he got Pritchard, right? Was that Pritchard was Neesmith. Grant. You got Grant that year. So, I mean, Grant's turning into a great player. I mean, and just the guy that you need on your team that, even his teammates kind of seem annoyed by him, but the other team must hate him. It's just a fun group to be around. But I think the main thing is just the growth. They as much as the talking heads and the fans wanted, everything to blow up and they wanted instant gratification. Luckily, the people running the franchise were more patient, and that's one thing the ownership group is, Wick Grossbeck, one of their philosophies, they don't like making changes. They really don't. And it was one of Danny's philosophies when he hired Doc. He should have fired Doc in 2006 when he had another one of those really long losing streaks. I remember I was in college at times being like, why does he still have a job? And Danny's right. Danny was right, but they're like, it's a sign of a bad organization to keep changing coaches and changing GMs and stuff. So they were patient. They didn't force Danny to make any moves. And Danny, I think, was a little too trigger shy towards the end there. He, was always waiting for that perfect move and never, wanted to trade any of his first round picks. And then he ended up with 3 in a draft, and teams were like, we know that you have to get rid of these. So they weren't offering fair value. But Brad's come in and be like, look, I had to coach with those terrible rookies. So I'm not doing that to the new guy. I'm just going to keep trading these picks. And I think the Derek White move was genius. It was great. It signaled what they were doing. What Brad's like, it's time to start winning. We're not giving these away for rental players. I just traded a first round pick for a guy that's under contract for 4 years. So, he's got 3 more years after this. He's right in our timeline. He fits perfectly. He's versatile, and he doesn't need to start. Like, that's what people don't understand. If you go get another star, like, then there's just egos fighting, who gets the ball. Derek White doesn't care. He's just a ball mover and a great defender. He can fill in for your starting point guard in a playoff game and play great. So it was just a genius move because, it really surprised a lot of us. And at times it looked like, woo, his shots kind of what's going on, but his defense has been great. And he's a crucial key for this team, this year and for years to come. And I don't want to talk about a pick swap in 2028. Get out of here. If that upset you, you need to get a life because who knows if planet Earth is even going to still be here in 2028, all right? So, swap. It's not like you're losing a first-round pick. So you better not be in the lottery anyway at that point.
Let's talk a little bit about Game 6 and the Game 7. Game 6, I just feel as though the team didn't show up the way they were supposed to, and they didn't start the game well, and I just think it was a missed opportunity, right? And I think it was a missed opportunity to get rest, missed opportunity to make a name for yourself, right? Sort of like say, no, I'm here, and I know when it's time to close the series, and I'm here to close the series. And even last night's game, we almost blew it. Oh my God! I was gonna be sick to my stomach. I think I would have thrown up. I think I would have threw up.
Same here, Vlad.
I think I would have threw up. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the fact that those guys, I think there's an inexperience that's causing them to either get a little tight or a little shy when it's time to close the game and close the series. And how does that affect us in the finals? We're facing a team that's won 3 NBA championships in the last 6 years. This is their 5th final in the last 6 years. They know exactly what they're doing. They've already lost down up 3-1. We know that's not going to happen again. So how does that affect us in the next series?
Well, I'll tell you what. So Game 6, they definitely started a little bit like, we got this because it's, we're supposed to win because it's our home court, and we just, smacked them in Game 5 on their home court. So, this is just our destiny. And we're going to get Al to the championship. And Al you could tell he was a little shook early in Game 6. But I think the big thing was just that Jimmy Butler, like, you can't really prepare yourself for a player like that with his back against the wall. It's like a cat. I have a cat, and he saw a neighborhood cat out. He's an indoor cat. And he saw a neighborhood cat out one time, and I was just going to shut the door, and he clawed me so hard. And I'm like, I feed you. You love me. Why are you mangling my foot? I mean, disgusting, blood everywhere. It was awful. But it's a cornered animal. It's an animal that's got its hand up. Like, that's what Jimmy Butler was. He was just on a mission, and it was incredible. It was incredible. He was incredible last night too. But and then I just, Kyle Lowry being really good in Game 6 was worrisome. But they weren't ready early, and then it was just too hard to get back in it or to sustain it. And Lowry was just clutch. That's what I hate about him. It just makes really big shots.
I can stand that guy.
But I don't
walks too much too.
Yeah, I really don't like him. I really don't like him one bit, and I'm glad that he's eliminated because. Oof.
Facts, same here.
I'm just glad he didn't injure any of our players because he wants to.
Oh,
but I just think that's kind of what happened, and and it's got to be maddening for Ime because he's said it before. He's like, I wish we played as good after we win than after we lose. This back to the wall mentality, and maybe just getting over the hump will kind of loosen them up a little bit because they were just a little tight in Game 6, and then they led wire to wire in Game 7, and it got a little. Things slowed down too much in the offense in the end of Game 7. And look, Marcus just missed some shots that, you can argue that 2 of maybe the 4 shots were ill-advised, but, that's the Marcus experience right there. And 2 were just like, you got to take that shot. You're wide open. Tatum is hitting you with a beautiful pass. Give him his assist in a big spot. And they didn't go in. And the Heat made some really hard shots, and I'm just like, thank God Jimmy Butler didn't rest at all because he didn't have the legs to hit that 3. I mean, that was such a killer move to pull up for the win like that. Thank God it missed because
if he had hit that,
thank God.
Oh man,
I'd have been off the internet for at least a week.
Oh my God!
You said you would have been off the internet for at least 2 weeks.
Well, at least 1 week, but probably 2. I mean, what a dark moment that would have been.
Oh, I'm off the internet after every single loss. I'm like, I'm avoiding this today.
Yeah, especially in the playoffs, it's tough. Because I love listening to podcasts, but if they're going to spend an hour just trashing the Celtics, I'm like, I just can't handle it.
Earlier you were talking about Derek White and how he was a very important move at the deadline. And I think game 6 was a Derek White game. He had 22 points, and I was like, that's another missed opportunity. When you have somebody that doesn't usually score and they're scoring like that, you kind of want to take advantage of that and make it count. But he also had another good game, Game 7. He not as good as Game 6, but he also had a good game. So do you think he's, I guess settling in? I mean, his son just got a new son, and sometimes that gives you the boost that you need. Do you think that's some points that we can rely on in the finals?
I do. I really do. They're going to need to because, the sneaky part about the Warriors is that they're a really good defensive team. Like they were number 1 most of the year until the Celtics overtook them. So it's not like they're just an elite offense. So they're going to need points from guys that don't normally score. But I do think that he has settled in because there were just a couple games this playoff run where he looked a little afraid of the moment. But I think he just kind of has resting afraid of the moment face, if that's a thing. He just kind of always looks like he's afraid of the moment, even when he's doing good things in the moment. It's just kind of that he has. But he I think it was a big thing, like kind of on his mind because he's like, I might have to miss a game in the playoffs because I'm not going to miss the birth of my kid, and maybe that was kind of weighing on his mind. And so once he got it out of the way and became a father for the first time, I can tell you it's an amazing feeling. It really changes your, outlook on life. And I think maybe he's playing with house money now because his life is feeling really good. And he's like, let's just go out there and try to win. This is amazing. And he's played like that, and he's been huge. I mean, he's got that little floater that he has now, and I can't remember how he shot. I think he at least hit 1 3 last night. I know in Game 6 he was hitting threes.
He hit. I know he hit at least 1 3, if not a couple last night. So,
but I was
he had one
up
from
before
the
the
corner
game.
early in the game. That corner 3 he made.
Yeah, and I remember seeing him shoot before he's warming up for Game 6 behind one of our live shots for our pregame show, and I could just see him hitting corner threes, and I was like, "Oh, Derek White game here," and he actually did.
So you knew it was coming.
Well, I mean, I watch a lot of those warm-up things, and it really doesn't matter. I mean, Marcus makes the behind the back shot a lot, and obviously
He does. Yeah.
You can't really judge. Who was it? Former player. Oh, Mo Williams was he at Game 6? Or I can't remember which game he was at, where he said Jalen wasn't going to have a good game because he missed all his warm-up shots, and Jalen ended up being fine. Yeah. You can't judge a player's night on how many shots he makes, because I make all of my shots when I'm alone in the gym. And does that mean I'm going to make 8 games? No, I will miss most. I will miss probably 90% of my shots in a game. But so you can't judge on warm-ups.
For sure, but I hear you totally. I have absolutely warm-ups are definitely misleading, but for sure, and can get you to make the wrong perceptions or give you the wrong impression of what's going to happen during the game. I wanted to ask you, about Jaylen Brown because, I think he's been playing pretty well for the most part in this postseason, but there's been certain times and certain, stretches of games in which, he's either disappeared or he's, turned over the ball and not, able to take care of it. And his handle is just shaky, to say the least, for lack of a better word. So are you, concerned about, his shaky handle and turnovers moving forward, and not the ability not to hit, free throws, like in Game 6 when he missed those 2 in crunch time? How do you feel about, Jaylen Brown in his game, at this point, and what do you think, he could, do you think, he could be able to improve on those, aspects of his game in this next series against the Warriors? Yeah,
no, I'm not as worried because the Heat were really scouting him, and clearly, they figured something out. They figured his dribble out. They knew when he was gonna, pull, start his gather and when to, go for the steal. Spoelstra's a great coach. So is Steve Kerr, but
absolutely.
He readjusted. He adjusted to it eventually. Like last night, I wish I remember this kid's name. Someone on Twitter tweeted out a bunch of plays where he kind of he dribbled in like he was gonna normally do, and then they would go for the steal. Stopped as the help was coming in, and then went in again. So a little, drive, come out, drive. And
I think give him that hezzy.
Yes, a little bit of a hezzy, and it was very effective. And so, there was an adjustment to make there. And look, he's such an important type of player to have in a playoff game because he can make some awful shots. His shot selection sometimes is really head scratching, but so you can't really complain. I'll be like, oh man, that's an awful shot, but it went in. But you need guys that can make really bad shots in the playoffs when you just need a bucket. And he's just been so consistently good for the last 3 years that I don't question him. The turnovers were maddening. It was maddening because he kept doing it in the same quarter. He had 4 in the first quarter. Was it Game 6 where it was just you got to stop dribbling. You got to just, at this point, they've got you figured out, and until you can recalibrate, you need to stop doing that exact same thing that keeps turning the ball over.
Right.
So turnovers were a little frustrating for him and for Tatum, but look, they got it done, and the Warriors. It's going to be such a different series because, you know, they're not like the physical just grinders that the Heat are. I mean, they're still a great defensive team. They've got Draymond, but you know, it's going to be two elite units, the offense for them and the defense for the Celtics, like historically great Celtics defense, just clashing, and it's going to be so fun. And I just like, I know this is awful to say, but it's just like, I just don't even care, like, if they win or not. Like, to me, it's like, I'm just so glad they're here that I could just enjoy it now. Of course, the Celtics are going to win game one, and I'm going to be like, all right, now they have to win the title. But right now, today, on Monday, after that just almost absolute disaster last night in game 7, I'm just happy to be alive, right?
Right. So are you saying the Celtics are playing with house money in the finals?
I'm playing with house money. I'm personally playing with house money. They are not. No, I don't think that's their mindset. I think that they want more. I think that it was an important step in the journey of this team, of this this group, of the core 3 or core 4 with Robert Williams. I would put Al in there probably instead, but just that group that's been together, the Jays and Marcus that have been through it all, the ups and downs, split these guys up, trade Marcus. You know, like, what's great, like, Tatum's the only one that's been a regular starter his entire career. Like, Marcus came in as like the heir apparent to Rondo, and Rondo was hurt. I think he was hurt at the beginning. Yeah, he broke his hand, not at the trampoline park, but at the in the shower apparently, and. So Marcus ended up starting in his rookie year, and then he got hurt. I remember it looked like his leg was going to fall off, and he ended up coming back 2 weeks later. But he got hurt. Then they traded Rondo, and Marcus was the starter. Then they traded for Isaiah. Isaiah was coming off the bench. Then they were like, wait, maybe we should start Isaiah, so they moved Marcus to the bench. Like, Marcus has been going back and forth from the bench to starter, and then he was just settled into a 6-man role the previous couple seasons. Then when Kemba kept getting hurt, he was the starter. And finally, like, let's just make this guy our starting point guard and see what happens. And they found their point guard. And Jalen was the same way. I mean, Jalen didn't start his rookie year. He barely played. He'd come in, make one defensive mistake. Brad pulled him. And, look, it worked for him. Absolutely. That was the kind of coaching he needed. And then he was starting. He was coming off the bench when Hayward was healthy after his missing that entire year, but Hayward was kind of like still not ready, and so they took Hayward out of the starting lineup, put Jalen back in, and Jalen never complained. He just was going back and forth, getting yanked around, do whatever he was told, and nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about how these 2 lottery picks, you know, both of them top 6, were not starting and didn't complain, and they just did what they were supposed to do for the team. And so I think that, you know, this journey for them to get to the championship, it's got to be so rewarding. And it's fun that it's against the Warriors, a team who's also homegrown stars. You know, it doesn't feel that way because they're all paid so much money, but that's what happens when you win so many early championships. But this is right where they were. This is the age they were when they started winning. Was maybe even a little early. Like, nobody was 24. You know, I think Curry was 26 or 27 when they won their first one. So, you know, this could be the start. I mean, they gotta, you know, let's see how they play. But I don't think they'll be afraid of the moment. I don't think they're playing with house money. I'm just saying, for me personally, just the stress is off because I just couldn't handle another disappointment, you know. And yes, it'll be disappointing if they don't win the banner, but I'm just so glad they got here.
Let's talk about the finals, though. Let's talk about the finals. I mean, now that we're here, let's be excited about it. Let's get into it. How do we win this? I think it's great that we're here, and I'm excited about being here. But I'm not satisfied. I want it. I think I'm proud of those guys. I'm proud of what they did, and it's unbelievable that they're at the finals. So young. I mean, if you think about it, LeBron didn't win his first final until he was like 28, 29 or something. You know, those guys are 25, 24. Same thing for Michael Jordan. A lot of guys didn't win their first finals. So it's possible that those guys don't win their first finals now. But but I want them to win. I think it's such a good team, but they're facing such a formidable team on the other. Yeah, exactly. If so much.
Yeah.
You know what?
On the other side.
The Celtics have always played the Warriors well. They're the only team in the entire NBA with a winning record.
That's true.
The last 7 years, and it's crazy because the year that they, set the record for wins, the Celtics gave them their first loss at home in like April.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I mean, it was just, and they played them so well earlier in that season as well, and ended up losing. But for some reason, Marcus is a good matchup for Curry, and they've just never been intimidated. And it's different players other than the main guys, and different coach obviously, but like they've just always just not been afraid of playing the Warriors, and they've played them well. They know how to beat them. The Warriors are really good, and I don't think the championship experience is as important as people are making it out to be, because I mean the Celtics, these guys have been in the conference finals, that was Marcus's fourth. It's like they've been to so many big playoff series, and they finally this year, all these game sevens, all these road wins. So it's just like, cool, you were in a playoff series with a different title on it, but it's not like the Celtics haven't been in, this group hasn't been in, high pressure situation just this season. So and like I said, that's the mindset that they have is so good. I would not bet against the Celtics. Would I pick them? I don't know. I might. I might, because this Warriors team isn't the KD Warriors that would just like nobody's going to beat them, even though teams did. They're not as unbeatable. And the Celtics, the gauntlet that they ran, because they were like, screw it, we want to have home court in the second round, so let's win today. Let's have some good momentum going into the first round, and if we play the Nets, we play the Nets. And guess what? They swept them. See you later, KD. They make KD look like pedestrian. It was embarrassing a little bit, and then they went toe to toe with Giannis, who's just a freak. He's an absolute freak, and dealt with injuries of their own, and they took him. They had like one of the worst losses ever in Game 5, where that could have totally just ended it. And then they're like, now we got to go win Game 6 in Milwaukee, and then come home and take care of business. And that's what they did. Jason Tatum just was like, let's have a measuring contest, Giannis, and he pulled us out, and he did it. You'll have to excuse my analogy there, but he did it. And then they got the Grant game in Game 7. And then they went 7 against a Heat team that I think was worse than the Milwaukee team, but that was the number 1 seed. That has the best coach in the NBA, has one of the best playoff performers I remember ever witnessing in Jimmy Butler, who you just like, he never misses, it feels like. It's just like, he had 3 bad games in the middle, but he was clearly hurt, and he just turns it on. And those are the kind of terrifying players. And then, veteran guys. Kyle Lowry, who's won a championship before. So, PJ Tucker, the Warriors didn't face anything close to that. They had, Memphis without Ja.
Yeah.
Who did they play in the first round?
The Denver Nuggets?
Yeah, that doesn't count. They suck.
But they were without Jokic. No, they were without Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr.
Right, it was a joke. I mean, come on, Jokic shouldn't have been MVP. What are we talking about? We don't need to get into that. It should have been MVP.
Really?
And then they didn't even get the Suns. They got Dallas, who couldn't make 3-pointers and is just like a one-person team. Well, I honestly, I'm not saying that I would have rather played I would rather play Golden State than Dallas, but I might, because Luka is a killer versus the Celtics, man.
Hate him.
How many times does he hit clutch shots to sink the Celtics? Feels like every time they play, he's hitting a buzzer beater.
Yo,
seriously.
I gotta say, Max, you're growing my confidence now. Just talking about some of the teams that the Warriors face and how we face a lot tougher teams. Now I'm kind of like, I don't know, getting me too excited. But what's a matchup you're looking forward to? What's a What's a definitive matchup for that series?
Let's see how Marcus plays against Steph. And really, it may come down to Jalen and Clay, like who has the better. Because Clay, at times, this postseason has looked like Clay, like Game 6 Clay, where it's just like, this is why you can't beat the Warriors, because there's a guy that, there's Steph Curry, the greatest shooter ever, and then the second greatest shooter ever, who also just goes on heaters where he doesn't miss, and it's just not human. But he's also, not the consistent Clay that he was, because he's still coming back. He's not the defender that he was. So we'll see. That may be the key one. Draymond is just a beast. He's an absolute beast. But, the Al Horford Draymond, and really, Rob Williams is going to be so massive. That's why I really hope they put him in some cryo chamber. If he needs my knee, he can take it. Just get whatever shots Jimmy Butler got before Game 6 and 7 and put him in Rob's knee, and because he's a real X factor. Because if they're playing, if it's Looney, if it's Draymond, great player but not a shooter, they'll sag off of him, and that's when Rob can roam and play free safety, and is just such a menace out there. So, I think Rob would be one of the real keys. Grant's going to have to play a big role. Derek White. I mean, really, everyone's the key matchup. I mean, I guess I can't forget Tatum. I guess if it's the two stars, Tatum versus Curry. I mean, if Tatum, I don't feel like he had one of his vintage playoff games this last round. I'm trying to remember. I mean, he had a couple 30-pointers, but like, he's due for like a 50.
His best game.
He's due for a 50.
His best game was Game 6 against the Bucks. That was his best games the whole playoff. So he's due for like a real Jason Tatum, I'm that dude kind of game.
Game 1, man. I'm calling it. That's what I want. I want to see, because, the Warriors are rested, but, rest versus rust. We'll see. Celtics are riding some vibes here. Hopefully they can rest up, and, Al can be a little bit more fresh, and Marcus can continue to heal, and Rob, whatever his deal was, because he was clearly he was so ineffective in Game 7. Like, it was bad. In the beginning of the fourth quarter, it was like, do we want Tyson here? We don't want Tice, right? But like, we can't have Rob out there, because he just wasn't effective. And they knew too. Like, it may have been like pure decoy. Like, Ime may have told him, like, look, Rob, he's gonna fight it out there for us a little bit. We'll see how it goes, but he doesn't have the boost or the burst, because Tatum was going on a drive with him, and I mean, every time that happened during the season, that's a lob, and Rob just dunks it. And he didn't lob it. And it's not like Tatum was being selfish. It was like a big, important, Tatum makes the right play. And he didn't go for the lob. And I think he gave him like a little bounce pass from there. I think Rob ended up turning it over. But it was telling to me that Tatum didn't try to go up with that to give him a dunk, because they must have known that he just was hobbled. So hopefully he can just, these 3 days will help him get healthy, because I do think he's really going to matter. He can they can win the championship. They absolutely can. I 100% believe that.
I mean, I tend to agree with Max, especially. I mean, we got the 3 days off. That will help out Al and the guys that are injured. But the way the finals is set up, like, we play on Thursday and then we don't play again until what, like Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's gonna give us a lot of time in between for guys to rest. So I think. With the guys that we got hurting, and our big man Al right there, that's going to help us a lot. And I think the Celtics are just not scared. Mac, we had you on for a little bit here. Barry, you got one last question you want to ask, Max?
Yeah, no, I do. So I wanted ask you, Max, just wanted to cut to the chase here. What's your prediction for this series? For the finals, what you thinking?
All right, I'm gonna predict with my heart, Celtics in 6.
Woo!
Okay.
Jordan, Tyson, Game 6, baby.
Look, Game Celtics in 7. It's such a cop out. I don't really believe this pick, so I'm gonna say Celtics in 7. No, I believe it. Celtics in 6. All right, I had Celtics in 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals. They took 7. Whatever. I was happy to be wrong as long as they won. I think I had Celtics in 6 as well against the Bucks. So maybe I'll say Celtics in 6 and they end up winning it in 7. But either way, let's bring Banner 18 home.
Let's do it.
Let's get it.
Let's do it. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I totally with that. I feel pretty good, about this series with the Celtics, but just a little concerned. I don't want to say scared, but just concerned and worried because what Golden State can do, especially if they get hot from 3-point from the 3-point line, and then and then with the 3 headed monster, particularly the surgence of Jordan Poole, who's turned out to be a really good
they're gonna
third option.
They're gonna attack him on defense. He doesn't defend. That's the one thing. Like Tyler Hero, he couldn't play before he got hurt in that series because he didn't defend, man. And the Celtics are good at exploiting those matchups. So Jordan Poole's a little scary offensively, but they can attack him on the other end.
Right. No, I hear, but also the depth, of the Warriors. Like even when they put the bench in the second unit, I know we have a decent bench, but they're, they have a pretty good bench, and guys like Kuminga who give them, good minutes and good, production. But when they come out, and they also, I think, getting back as well.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just really quickly, I just have to say this. Andrew Wiggins might be an X factor. Watching him against Luka still put points up, but man, nobody on the Heat was that kind of athlete. So we'll see if they stick him on Tatum, but he could be, he kind of found a role last series to be that defensive stopper. And you bringing up Kuminga reminded me of that. He was another athlete who we'll see how much they use him, but that level of athleticism, it's just such a different team than the Heat. So, but boy, it's going to be exciting. I can't wait.
I'm excited.
I mean, me too. Man, can't wait for Thursday. I know it's going to be a fun series and a hell of a series to watch. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, just counting down the hours until, game 1 on Thursday. So it's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Yes, sir. You guys heard it here first. Celtics in 6, says Max Lederman. Max, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming on again. We always appreciate you and have fun talking to you, man. Go Celtics.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Max. Appreciate you. Good to see you again.
I appreciate you guys having me back on. I'm pumped.
For sure. Hey, let's go win Ben 18. Let's get this banner.
That's right. We got the nice weather now, too. It's like, it would have been so bad if they lost.
Oh yeah, it would have been depressing, absolutely demoralizing. Couldn't even imagine.
It almost hurts a little bit just that it was that close. Everyone's talking about the Butler shot and the Strus 3. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, man. Lead once on your home court in Game 7. How about you have a lead at one point in the game, and then you can start complaining about shot selection or the 3 being negated. It happened twice to the Celtics this playoff run. I don't remember who. Was it against Brooklyn or Milwaukee where they had we went back and reviewed the shot. The shot clock had already expired. So we're just going to take those points away.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if that's the right rule, but they did it. So
I mean, it was the right call, though. The right call was made.
I ain't worried about that. Win the finals. That's all that matters.
That's right. Oh, I hate the Heat. All right, guys. Thanks.
All right, Max. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Max. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You too. Guys, I just wanted to ask you all a quick question, regarding the Celtics. Are you guys a little bit worried about the Celtics still not being able to play with leads and struggling to close out games in crunch time like we've seen in the postseason? Does that worry and concern you moving forward into the finals against the Warriors?
I mean, listen, man, they've played 3 of the toughest series to get to the finals, and they pulled them out. So, I think they can definitely pull out anything if they put their mind to it.
Yeah, I'm not too. I don't think it's they can handle leads. I think Miami played a really good game as well. I think Miami was tough. I think Jimmy Butler specifically was tough. So I'm not worried about them not handling leads. I just think that they need to be able to close out games. I think because they were able to sustain leads against the Bucks. They were able to sustain leads against the Nets and some lead against the Heat as well. So I'm not too worried about that, but closing out, we need to do that.
Yeah, no question. They gotta be better and and execute better in crunch time and and finish what I'm saying, better in those last 3 or 4 minutes and not be stagnant and just kind of getting too trigger happy in terms of like just looking for the daggers, like just take what the defense gives you, and just and get to the basket and kind of to take high quality shots, not trying to go for the kill, because that's what I thought happened in Game 7 towards the end of that game, is that they were trying to hit those dagger threes and go for the kill, and and pretty much put the put the the knife right into their chest, but unfortunately they ended up having that little drought at the end, but I'm glad they hung on. So it just concerns me a little bit, because we've seen it multiple times, particularly not only last night but also in Game 5 of the of the Bucks series, which they had a pretty a lead towards the end of that game, like 2 or 3 minutes left, and they weren't able to close that out. But I think they'll learn from those experiences, and they'll learn that they just gotta get better shots and run the offense, and other guys gotta step up when they double and trap Jason Tatum on the pick and roll like they were doing. So it's up to the other 4 guys to be able to make plays and make shots and and be assertive and not just settle for for threes all the time.
Yeah, man. Great points. If you're still watching, make sure you guys are liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Make sure you're following Max on social media. His Twitter handle is @Max_Lederman. You can watch him on a weekly basis on NBC Boston. So once again, thank you, Max. And make sure you guys are following us on social media as well. It's @ProFanSports on everything except for Instagram. That's @ProFans_sports. Dropping content on a daily basis, keeping you up to date to whatever's going on daily. So until next episode, man, thanks for watching. Peace out.
Good week, everyone. See y'all next week on episode 115. Go Celtics.